Very good.
Welcome to Heaven's Metal Magazine. I'm with Michael Sweet, the front man for Stryper and the guitar aficionado, guitar hero of Stryper. Hey, Michael, welcome to Heaven's Metal.
What's going on? Nobody knows this, but actually, Robert and my last name used to be Sour.
Michael Sauer.
Yeah, and we didn't care
Yeah.
for that. We thought it was a little negative. So once we became a Christian band, we changed it to Sweet.
My grandmother, who lived in Garden Grove, California, she used to ask me if I had a sour look on my face. What have you been sucking on persimmons? That was a way to describe being sour. So, Michael, what led to the Christmas album idea?
Well, we did, as most Striper fans, hopefully all Striper fans know, we did this single back in '85, which was, might have even been late '84. That was Winter Wonderland and Reason for the Season. And it went over so well. People have been asking us ever since, when are you doing a Christmas album? And we just keep telling them the same thing over and over again. Someday, someday, someday. That day has finally come. We just made it happen. We went in the studio and said, we're doing it. We recorded it in May. Um, and the label was all for it. And we now have an official Christmas album. It's pretty cool.
Congratulations. What was it about the original versions of Reason for the Season and A Winter Wonderland that made you want to do a redo on those two?
Well, that's always a roll of the dice because most fans like the original. With any band, any song that's 40 years old, 50 years old, they usually like the original. And a lot of times nostalgia goes along with that, memories go along with that. And I get it. I understand that. But at the same time, we're almost a new band now. We're 40 some odd years older. I'd like to think that we're a little more mature as a band and as people, and that's going to come out in the music. We tune down a half step now, so things are a little heavier. My voice is obviously deeper and grittier and a little different. I don't sound like a girl who inhaled a balloon full of helium anymore. Um, so it's kind of fun redoing these songs, and I can only hope and pray that we do them justice. We don't destroy them. I think we captured the overall vibe of both songs. We did away with the banter in the beginning of Winter Wonderland because that would have felt kind of forced,
Yeah.
and it's like, how do you recapture that? Obviously, that was with Tim, and we all talk like this back then. Would now it'd be like this. So we didn't go there, but we wanted to redo the songs, Winter Wonderland and Reason. I'm glad we did. And then we wanted to do some new songs and come up with some new originals that will hopefully be Christmas classics for years to come.
Nice. Am I not hearing those double bass drums in Winter Wonderland? What's up with that?
You are. They're there. Rob's doing it. I'm not really sure. Somebody else commented on that, but he's playing that. He's doing that part.
Cool.
So I'm not really sure if maybe just he was a little light-footed on one of his kick drums or not. I have no idea, but it's definitely there.
You can call him Gordon now, Gordon Lightfoot.
Well, listen, we've been calling Rob that since 1986.
Really? Why
I'm
is
kidding. Rob's always been a heavy foot, not light foot.
I like the way you tell me that you're kidding. Our pastor tells jokes all the time and he never lets on that he's kidding. He'll talk about getting drunk or the worship team vaping in the back and never says I'm just kidding.
You know what? I do that sometimes, but people always tell me if you're with me in person, I always have a little smirk on the side of my mouth, and that's how they know. And the minute they see that, they're like, "Yeah, you can't even say it without smirking." So I can't get away with it.
So all smirking aside, why is Christmas music important to y'all?
Well, I mean, obviously, what it represents, the birth of Christ. And yes, we know Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. We got everybody throwing those darts. We get it, but it's the celebration of the birth of Christ, and that's what Christmas represents to me, and to, I would like to think, all Christians. So that's a powerful thing. And I think we get caught up so often in all the gift giving and going in debt and you got to get out and get your lights and do that. And that's all fine. But sometimes it distracts us from the true meaning of Christmas, which is the birth of Christ.
Well, I used to cry every year as a kid watching the claymation movie, The Little Drummer Boy. That's why you covered the song, isn't it? I just know it.
No, but I love those too. And I remember those and absolutely recall and miss those. Those were incredible. It was really weird. It was an odd combination. You didn't know it at the time, but you look back on it now and it's so bad. It's so good. Right?
Yeah.
But, the Little Drummer Boy, that's always been a favorite of mine. Ever since I saw the David Bowie and Bing Crosby version, I'm like, wow. I've always loved that song. And I've been doing a version of that on my own out acoustically and whatnot. And then STRYPER did one not long ago at the Ringing of the Bell in New York City. So we figured, let's do that for sure. That makes sense. And we had to add that one.
Nice. Speaking of Bowie, what does ba-rumpa-bum-bum mean? I mean, doesn't the Bible say not to speak in tongues if there's no interpretation?
Oh, for sure. For me, ba-rumpa-bum-bum means, have a sip of coffee. And that I do every time I sing that line.
Nice. I believe it. I love the opening drums in Little Drummer Boy. Reminds me of the power behind Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Oh yeah, no, totally. And the song is called Little Drummer Boy, so you kind of have to open with drums. You should.
Yeah.
And it would have been really cool if Rob did some kind of a little solo or something at some point within the song. That would have been even cooler. And that was an afterthought. So something I wish I had thought of earlier on. But you know what? That's one of, I think, all of us, everyone in the band, that's one of our favorites. We love that song, always have. And we kind of dig the version we did. No pats on the back, but I think it's a powerful version. It's pretty cool.
I do too. Congratulations. So the press release says you did 5 originals and 5 standards. Is that accurate? Okay.
It is. The 5 originals obviously include Reason for the Season.
Right. So out of the remaining 3, I've got 4 written down here. So one of these is obviously a cover that I'm not getting it. I'm stupid, I guess. But so tell me about the new original Christmas songs.
Okay, so we've got The Greatest Gift of All.
Okay.
That's the title track.
Yep.
Kind of a little bit more upbeat pop, a little flavors of punk, almost kind of maybe more Ramones-y punk than, and then we've got Still the Light.
Yep.
Which was a single. Very typical STRYPER sound to it, which I think people expect to some degree. And then we have a song coming out on Halloween, which I absolutely love the fact that it's coming out on Halloween. And that is called On This Holy Night.
Love it.
We've got a lot of nights in there in those titles,
Yeah.
And then let's see, what else? We've got, what is the other? I'm drawing a blank. What is the other?
Reason for the Season in Winter Wonderland would make 5.
No, Reason for the Season would make 4. That's 4 originals, but there's a 5th original. Winter Wonderland is not an original.
Oh, Heaven Came on Christmas Day.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And oddly enough, that's more my style. I don't know what it is about that song, but I love that song. I repeat that song probably more than any when I'm listening to the album.
Yeah. So tell me about the recording process. I assume it was at Spirit House. Tell me about the recording process, the time together, and how it felt recording the Christmas album in May.
I just took my phone, I spoke into it, I said, make a song that sounds kind of like STRYPER, and boom, the whole album came out. It was great. Oh, the sad part, that's a joke.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I have people accusing us of using AI all the time, and we're not at that point yet. Only thing I've used AI for is to help with lyric ideas, but not really for albums. More so for other things that I've got going on to help with the presentation or putting in what I've written and kind of tweaking it. But yeah, the whole AI thing and letting AI do your albums, kids, don't do that. Don't, please don't do that. Keep the creative juices flowing and the originality that comes from the human touch, your touch, versus a computer's touch. But anyway, that aside, um, this album was written like pretty much every other album, in the sense that I would sit down and just start writing, and it's about a song a day, and those new 4 songs came out, one a day, and I sent them to the guys, and then we already had arrangements pretty much for the other songs. I've been playing Joy to the World and Go Tell It on the Mountain out at my Christmas show for the last 3 or 4 years. And it's pretty much, those are the same arrangements for the most part.
Yeah.
Aside from the solos, I wanted to, what we usually do with guitar solos is, after the basics are recorded, everyone goes home. I sing and do my solos here in my studio. Oz does his solos at home. And I didn't want to do it that way this time. So I would go up to my room at midnight, work out a solo, come down the next morning, show it to Oz, go out in the studio and record drums and bass, and Oz would work on that. I would track my solo, then he would come out and track his harmony to that solo. Every solo on the album is a harmony.
Nice. Very cool. You brought something up that I think both of us can relate to. Some of your Facebook comments, and uh, you know, I want to be a person that's never out of touch with the world around me. But sometimes it would almost be easier if I did live in an echo chamber, because some of the feedback and pushback and comments I get and comments you get are so weird and so annoying sometimes.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. But it's just part of living on this planet, I guess, is we're going to deal with questions and people firing stuff at us and throwing darts at us, like you said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that's unfortunate is, this is my perspective. I may very well be wrong, but I think the internet and technology has made that worse. Because number one, everyone has a voice now.
Yeah.
And I don't think certain people should have a voice. The people that are just saying bad things all the time. You know what I mean? It's like, no, we don't need that. And number two, people can say whatever they want to say, because what they do is they go and gather information off the internet and they take it to heart and believe it and think it's true. Now, maybe 1 out of 10 times it may very well be true, but 9 out of 10 times it's not. And they're out there making videos about it and putting it on YouTube and TikTok. And it's like, this isn't even true. And that's what drives me crazy. And people say, oh, just ignore it. I don't ignore it. I go out there and I will set the record straight. And the reason why I do that is because if it's just an outright lie, why would you not want to let people know the truth? That's what I do. And I get in trouble for doing that. People say I whine a lot. I'm too opinionated. I complain. I don't have thick skin, all this stuff. And the funny thing is, if people knew me or know me, they would realize that my skin is probably too thick. I'm probably a little too jaded and a little too, I don't care in my day-to-day life. If they knew me, this stuff doesn't get to me. I don't sit and cry tears and, whine about it. I'm just trying to say to these people, hey guys, here's the truth. That's not right. And then if someone comes on my Facebook and really lets me have it, I'll let them have it right back. I won't put up. People aren't going to wipe their dirty boots on me. I'm not going to put up with garbage. So I'm kind of known for that too. And then if it gets out of control, I'll just block them. I mean, I blocked probably, realistically, in the last year, at least 1,000 people. At least. It's a constant daily process for me.
Wow, that's a lot of noise.
I'm not going to put up with garbage. I'm just not. I don't have time for it. And there are too many good people that follow me on Facebook that they don't deserve that either. So, I just won't put up with it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if we were sitting back and looking at our lives, I really like the Michael Sweet I see on Facebook. I feel like we're getting the real Michael Sweet. Uh, some complaining, some praise, just real stuff that you might mention to a friend, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's important to me, and it somewhere in the past, like maybe 4 or 5 years, especially, it's gone to a new level of me just wanting to be real. And whether people like me or not, or they're upset with me or not, or whatever. Because let's face it, we don't all share the same views and opinions. We all know that. But man, I just want to be real. In other words, if you ask me if I like bourbon, everybody knows that I actually like the taste of bourbon. It's not an alcohol thing. It's not to get drunk. It's not to, be out of control. I enjoy trying different bourbons and sipping them and like, oh wow, I can really taste the oak in this one. And it's more of a hobby for
yeah.
me. Um, but if you ask, if you maybe ask another Christian artist that question, do you like bourbon? And I just had a bourbon with them an hour ago, they would probably say, oh gosh, no. Me? No. I just say, yeah, I do. I mean, it's just be real and present your heart, good or bad,
Yeah.
and everything else will work out.
I think it's a gift. It's like a rare glimpse into the life of a rock star. You know, we don't always get that. You're not hiding behind the green room closed door in a sense with social media. So I appreciate it. Good, bad, or ugly. I like it.
I try not to. I'm sure there are some things that I keep private and you may not know about me. I don't lay everything out there.
Sure.
But I mean, I try to be an open book and do so with respect. And just say, hey guys, this is me. Accept me or not, this is who I am. Versus presenting something publicly that's the complete opposite of who you are privately. That's weird to me, man. That's not good.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're probably right about the 90-10 percentage thing. Back in the mid 90s, Ty Tabor of King's X shared something with me. And this was before the days of Facebook. This is when the forward button on your email, you forwarded things to everybody. And he says, if it's on the internet, I automatically don't believe it. And I took that to heart. And it's really done me well through the
Yeah.
years because my first response is, nah.
Yeah, it's so true, man. It is so true. And some of the things I read on the internet, my first feeling is a knife through the heart.
Mm,
Like just ouch. Oh my word. I can't believe so and so is saying that, or that these people are believing this, and things like that. But then at the end of the day, all I can do is present the truth and then pray about it and let God take the rest, and not worry about it. That's the trick, is just moving forward,
mm.
not letting it keep you down and rob your joy. That's really important.
Good deal. Speaking of moving forward, tell me about the future of Striper. What is on the horizon?
We broke up yesterday.
Oh man, good timing for this interview.
Yeah. Yeah, we're no more, man. We just couldn't deal with it. We had a big fight, fist fight out in Robert's backyard.
Yeah, I blame myself for that.
Uh, uh, you know what? The future of Striper. It's a good question. I mean, if in the real world, in a perfect world, I should say, if we were all well and there were no physical ailments and we were young, strong lads, I would say we have many, many, many years to come, and it's a bright future. But as we all know all too well, life can take those things away. We get older, we're all aging, and things happen that's out of your control. And because of that, it puts limitations on us, touring, how busy we are, how active we are. But putting all that aside, I think that there is a bright future for Striper. There's still a lot of gas left in the tank. At least I believe that. I would like to record at least 4 or 5 more Striper albums and maybe 5 or 6 more solo albums, and someday retire and just enjoy life and go at a slower pace. But that day isn't here yet.
Well, speaking of kicking back, you've done a few of these rock and roll cruises. How is that?
It's bittersweet. It's enjoyable. You get to be on a boat with all of your friends and your peers and see people you've never seen before and some of your favorite bands growing up. And that's amazing, phenomenal. The bitter part of that would be like being locked in your cabin because we've got rough seas and you're sitting there trying not to throw up, for 6 hours. Or the food was so bad you're trying not to throw up for 6 hours, or I mean, just things like that, and you're kind of locked. You're I don't want to say held prisoner, but you're kind of locked on this boat for 4 or 5, 6 days, and you can't go anywhere, and that's the negative. But man, being with all your friends and peers is the positive. It's such a great time, really is.
Cool. What has touring in Central and South America been like for you?
Oh man, well, we just did. I believe it was a 15-city South American tour,
Wow.
and we were there for almost a month, and it was pretty much like, play, fly, then early the next morning, play, fly. It was boom, 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 and it was pretty wild. We didn't have a lot of time to ourselves. We had Howie Simon filling in for Oz, and Howie has become a really dear friend, of the band, and what an incredible player, incredible singer. He's really probably the only guy or one of very few who could pull that off, who could, because Striper songs there's more to them than, you might realize. And you don't realize that till you sit down and you try to learn one as a guitar player. There's a lot going on. Not only are the solos in harmony, but the rhythms are in harmony. A lot of harmonization and a lot of parts and pushes and pulls and things going on. So it's somewhat complex and complicated. And this guy, Howie, learned the stuff. He worked with Oz, but man, he can learn that stuff in a few days and come out and play it note for note better than the rest of us. It's crazy.
I'm amazed by true musicians who can do that sort of thing.
Mind blowing. And then we had great turnouts. We started in Mexico, and we ended in Brazil. And great turnouts, great crowds, ranging from 2,000, 2,500 down to about 1,000 people, and wonderful fans in South America. I don't know what else to say other than they're always there for us and they always support us, and just incredible people.
Wow. So tell me about Christian heavy metal, a movement you helped ignite. What are your thoughts?
Well, man, look again, being the typical honest Michael Sweet that I always am, I kind of wish I knew more about Christian metal. I'm not that guy. If you ask me, name 10 Christian metal bands that you like, I'd have a tough time doing that. I mean, I could name a few, maybe 5, but it'd start getting difficult after, Demon Hunter, Skillet, Disciple. Obviously, there are other bands like Red. I'm not really familiar with Red. A lot of people love Red. I couldn't name one song, and I don't mean that as a cut down or any disrespect. I just can't. So I'm not that up or hip on the Christian music scene. I'm just up and hip, or I try to be, on the music scene. And I've been very outspoken about this. I've never liked the term Christian metal, Christian rock, Christian music. I just think it's just music. It's rock, it's metal, and it just almost, to me, becomes a little corny at times. And I've always used that analogy when your toilet's overflowing and you got, oh my gosh, let's look up a plumber. You're not looking, because you're a Christian household, you're not looking for a Christian plumber. You're just looking for a great plumber. And I don't like those kinds of labels. It's kind of weird to me. And again, no disrespect. A lot of people really get up in arms about that when they hear me say that. They think I'm denying Christ and I'm denying my faith. And it's like, wait a second here. This is a guy who has boldly proclaimed Christ his entire life and taken a lot of heat for it. So I'm not doing that. But I just never cared for the Christian term. But that being said, I think it's amazing. We just got back from Germany. We played Loud and Proud. Amazing festival, amazing people. They could show a thing or two to many other festivals, how to run a festival, and some great bands. Killer. We did a South American tour with Bride and Narnia. Awesome.
Wow.
2 amazing bands. They sounded incredible night after night. Some of the best people, salt of the earth. Incredible. So all my experiences with Christian metal and Christian rock, as you put it, has always been great. From time to time, there's a few people, without naming names, that aren't so great. You're in the dressing room and it's their turn to get the dressing room, and they've got bodyguards standing there and they want you out, and they're not very nice and they don't say hi, and they come and take your food, and they try to turn your volume down, 10 dB under theirs, so you don't outshine them and you don't get those lights. And there's so much gear on the stage that you've got literally a foot to stand, and you're just standing there thinking, wow, it's not supposed to be this way. This is Christian. So there's the bad side of that whole world as well.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's in the New Testament. I think it's written down somewhere, though, that the butt crack of a Christian plumber looks a lot nicer than a non-believing plumber.
Yeah, because he has John 3:16 tattooed on his rear.
He should. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about the nonprofit you just launched.
Oh, man, we're so excited about that. Basically, my wife, Lisa, and myself, we have talked for a number of years about a way to help struggling musicians. And some people are a little confused and they think it's just for Christian musicians. No, it's for all musicians. And we want to be a light to those musicians, and we want to help those who are struggling, whether it's on at the level where they can't afford their first guitar. They don't have the money. They're in poverty, and they want to go out and do this and do that, but they can't afford this or that. Or help with touring, help with recording, getting in the studio to make their first album. We're offering grants through this foundation, and we've been blessed and able to do that. And we're just sitting back and waiting. We just launched it yesterday. We're sitting back and waiting to see how this pans out. But the goal here isn't for us to benefit from it whatsoever, but for everyone else that's struggling out there that needs help to benefit from it. I've been there firsthand. I've experienced it. It's not easy. The music world will literally chew you up and spit you out. So we want to help, and that's what it's all about. And it's really cool, man. We're super excited.
Awesome. I'm not sure if it was Dana Carvey on SNL or the Real Church Lady who said something about the couple in Winter Wonderland responding to the "Are you married?" question, implying that they were living in sin and having all sorts of illicit sex, and how horrible, terrible that is for Christians to sing at that time of year. Your comment.
Well, the thing is, it's very easy for non-Christians who don't approve of Christians, who are opposed to anything that's of Christ, to point a finger and try to bust them on anything. Oh, look he's drinking. He's having a beer. Oh, he's smoking a cigarette or a cigar. Oh, look they're making out, and all these kinds of things. And that's not what Christianity is about, in my opinion. I mean, we're gonna always stumble. We're gonna always be sinners. The key to being a Christian is trying to let God lead and change your heart and your ways, but you're never going to be perfect. And that's not to be used as an excuse, but unfortunately, the world is watching, and a lot of times they're just waiting to pounce the second they think you blow it. And really, the reality of it is you're not blowing it. If you've devoted your life to Christ and you stand boldly and proclaim Christ, and you're doing all that you can to be a better person and a better Christian, that's all that matters. Don't listen to what the world says.
Wow. I'm glad you said that. That's so cool. So I've got 5 minutes left on this Zoom call, and it's going to cut off at the 5 minute mark. And if we don't get a chance to say goodbye, that's why. But I want to move on. I got a couple more questions.
Okay, brother.
So let's talk about Enigma Records and how they capitalized and jumped on the special edition this and the special release that. How much do you think that helped your career?
I think they were brilliant, genius. And I never really thought about it at the time. As a matter of fact, I used to think like, gosh, we just released a black vinyl. Why are we releasing white? And oh man, we just released white. Why are we doing yellow? But now, looking back on it, it was so brilliant. And I wish more labels did that. Because a lot of fans not only just want to listen to the music, they want to collect things. They want to collect everything a band puts out, almost like a comic, a superhero, a comic book. It's very similar. So I think it's very cool, and Enigma was ahead of the game on that one, man. I tell you, they were masters at marketing, if you will, and boy, wow, we learned a lot from that. And we don't do it necessarily to, like, everyone says, any way to make a buck, any way to make a buck. No, what it is when we're out touring, and we have thousands of fans come up to us and say, man, when are you guys going to release this or that? It's like, oh, well, you know what? We never thought about that, but we'll look into that. Then next year, we'll release it. And we try to stay ahead of the curve. We're always releasing stuff. And that's kind of what STRYPER's about.
Cool. Keep up the good work. I want to
Yeah,
give a
man.
special shout out to a guy named Rick Orienza. He was the publicist at Enigma back in the day.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he had a big hand in my career as a music journalist. He called me all the time, telling me what was up with Stryper and whatnot. And I owe him a big debt of gratitude for getting me started with writing about music and papers and stuff.
Oh, Rick is an amazing person. I haven't talked to him in a long time. But yeah, man, he always had a smile on his face,
Really?
always. And so encouraging, and he was so cool. And I remember Rick very well. And we worked with him hand in hand on a lot of things. Oh yeah, very cool dude. I don't know what he's doing now. Who knows? But
Yeah, me neither. I can't help but sense that there was an anointing deeper than a cool hook behind the song, like Reason for the Season. Even in the remake, there's a joy that can really be felt. And I'm confident that you might have felt something special was going on too. How did you feel?
well, yeah, I mean, when you're singing those lyrics, man, you're closing your eyes and you're just singing along. A lot of the Striper songs are just worship songs. You can close your eyes. Granted, it's not the musical style that most churches play or present, but they really are worship songs. And you could close your eyes and totally worship God. And that is obviously a perfect example of that reason for the season. He is the reason for the season. Don't get caught up in all the other mumbo jumbo, just focus on the reason for the season, which is Christ and his coming into the world, being born a savior and being crucified a savior and rising again as a savior. So that's all we need to focus on.
Awesome. I wanted to ask a follow-up question to the part about Christian rock, and I just wanted to get to more questions, so I skipped it. But did you believe the same way about the Christian label in 1983?
I did. I just never really voiced my opinion. And obviously, we didn't have the internet, so it wasn't an easy task to present yourself as easily. But yeah, man, I always felt weird. I remember going back into record stores back in the day and saying, "Hey, man, I want to buy a few Striper albums. It just came out today. Can you tell me where it is?" And you see all the other albums up front that came out that day.
Yeah.
Survivor, Van Halen, whoever it was. And the guy goes, "Oh yeah, there's a Christian category. You see way back there, it's in the back corner. That's where it is." And I would just think, what? That's weird. That's just so lame. Why isn't it up here in the rock category? with all these other bands. So yes, I did think that. I started thinking that back then, and I just felt like it definitely limited us to some degree, being categorized and put in the back corner of the store. And I didn't like that. I still don't like that. And I'll go take Stryper albums and move them to the front of the store next to Megadeth. I do that all the time.
Nice. Well, I'm going to sign off here on the recording.